Yeah, okay, this is video number 2, because we had to take a break. I asked you earlier what your earliest memory was, and off camera you just mentioned something. What do you remember?
I remember everybody getting very excited about Lindbergh's trip. He flew to Europe and back or something.
It was the first transatlantic flight.
I don't remember it clearly, but I remember everybody
talking about it. And that was 1927, so you were only like 4 and a half, so that must have been a pretty big deal.
And I also remember we rave about the Catholic president. We almost had a Catholic president back then when Al Smith ran against Hoover. Al Smith was the Catholic. Never made it.
Okay.
I remember that.
All right, so you're living in Jackson Heights and you're going to school. How did you get to school?
Walked.
Did you walk by yourself? Did you walk with neighbors? Did your parent walk you?
I had older neighbors walking me until I finally was trusted to go by myself. I always walked with a friend. There's always somebody going to school. And there was a man who lived next door, Mr. Fiorentino, who had a truck because he had a grocery store. And if it was raining or snowing, he took all of us kids in his truck.
Now that's interesting because you mentioned a truck. Did your family own a car?
Not until much later we had an Auburn, but that was much later. You can look up when did the Auburns come on the market. I don't know.
Okay, but in your childhood, there wasn't a car. So if your family needed to go somewhere, how would they get there?
Train. Well, where were we going?
Well, I don't know.
People didn't go anyplace.
Well, how did your father get in and out of the city?
He took the train.
Okay. When you were in school, did they have like school activities like they do today? Were you
learned? In the older grades, the boys had shop, and we had homemaking, but that wasn't until 7th or 8th grade.
Okay.
We made our graduation dresses, but we didn't make that till much later, till you're getting close to graduation.
Okay, but in school?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, well.
No, I mean, did they have any after-school activities? Or?
No.
Okay.
At lunchtime, you remember there were no school buses. I don't know how people who lived a distance got to school because they must have just walked. We lived far. And there was no such thing as a snow day.
What, you had to walk a long distance to get to school?
Yes, but always with friends.
Okay. Did they serve lunch in school or did you have to bring lunch?
Bring lunch.
Okay.
Or buy lunch outside of school. Because that was a treat. Remember now, school hours beginning to take place. You said that the Depression started 1929. I was 6.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever grade you're in when you're 6, you're cautious. We were not poor, but we had an uncle who lost his job. And my grandfather said, and I quote, "Tell him to go sell apples like everybody else."
So even though you were 6 when the Great Depression started, you remembered that your family wasn't poor, but that they became more cautious with money, and you had an uncle who had a good job, and because of the Depression he lost it?
Ruined his life. Don't go there.
Okay. But your parents and your inside your household, see, your two-family household, how did the Depression affect you guys? What was your awareness of it?
Eat everything on your plate because there were starving children in Europe. Other than that,
Was food harder to come by? Like, did grocery stores have less food? Or?
I was not aware.
You weren't
of that.
aware of
My
anything.
grandmother and mother went shopping every day.
Okay.
There were no supermarkets.
Right.
They came in my childhood. They developed, but at that stage, there were no supermarkets. There was
What, like a corner?
Bohack A&P on the corner, small store.
Small stores. Did the Depression affect like what the clothing you could wear? Like, did you have new clothes?
I was not aware of not having anything.
Okay, so the Depression did not.
No, but I found out later that my father did this so that I could get a pair of shoes, or that my mother did this. They were cautious.
All right. So you learned later that your parents did things so that you didn't
They
have
never
to.
made me feel poor. They never made me feel insecure. My Christmases were wonderful.
What kind of presents did you get for Christmas?
Dolls and carriages and rocking chairs and clothes.
What would you get in your stocking?
An orange, nuts. I don't remember the stocking. I don't even know if I must have had a stocking. Because my grandmother kept telling me all she got in her stocking was an orange.
Let me ask you something. So you're growing up in Jackson.
Secure.
Right. But you're growing up in Jackson Heights where the houses are all fairly close together. Did you ever have a sense of your parents or grandparents comparing what you had to what neighbors had? Like, this neighbor is poor, this neighbor is...
No.
Was there a sense of community?
Yes, wait a minute. There was a poor family. Rita Judge and the girl that was friends with your brother. Their husband died, and the widow was left with this house, and a sister and a brother, and it was a mess.
All right.
I remember that.
So you remember that
I remember a poor family.
Okay.
Nobody did anything for them, as far as I know.
Okay. What were meal times like? Since so many people lived in the house, did you all eat together every night, or only on?
My grandfather and father were both barbers in different shops. They came home every night by 8 o'clock. They ate together, usually. My mother took advantage, and we ate with my grandmother and the two girls, my aunts, very often. It was one house.
Right. What was Sundays like?
Sundays were delightful.
Why?
My grandmother cooked. She always made pasta. She made it from scratch. My uncle came with two sons, my cousins, and my grandfather's bachelor brother came. And their Sundays were active and argumentative, and politics was discussed, and Italy was discussed. It was everything about my childhood was wonderful.
Like, during a typical Sunday meal with all the adults talking, were you aware that they were talking politics? in general, or were you aware of specifically what they were talking about?
At that age,
Well, no. I mean, we're not going to be stuck at 6 years old. You're growing up.
Growing up, when they got to the politics.
What do you remember them discussing?
When I was in high school. No, before high school. The last grades of grade school and high school. I listened because they all made sense.
What were they talking about?
None of them agreed with anybody.
But what were they talking about?
Roosevelt as president. What a disaster Hoover was.
Did you ever join in, or you just listened?
Couldn't join in.
Did the women talk, or just the men?
No, the women, it was no dishwasher. The women in the middle of the meal would get up and go in the kitchen and do a load of dishes and come back with the next course.
Right. Now growing up, like today, people have big social lives. When you were growing up, was your social life mainly your family?
Yeah, but that went for everybody, I think. Family was everything. Your cousins, they were like your brothers.
Right. So people weren't going out with friends that they met somewhere. It was always family.
That came later.
Okay. What was it like being an only child?
It could have been disastrous, but I was in a household with so many people, and that household, as one of my cousins said, was the center of the universe.
Right.
So everybody was there.
Right.
Weekends, hot summers.
Right. So you were surrounded by family, so
Always.
you never felt like an only child.
What's the word? I can't think of the word, but it's like implied, or it made you, the dominant thing was family.
Right. So now we're talking the 1930s and 40s, where
nobody had money. There was no place to go. You went to the movies.
But like if let's say you were in 7th grade and you made a friend, would you say to that friend, on Saturday, let's go to the movies? Do you remember having friends?
I had friends.
But they were friends like only at school. It wasn't like, let's get together after school?
I had friends on the block. I don't remember any of that. There was, when you were home, you were home. When you were in school, you were in school. And every now and then you would get invited to somebody's house. Very little of that happened.
Okay. In 1941, you were 14 years old.
I was in high school.
Okay. And do you remember, what do you remember about the bombing of Pearl Harbor? Was that big news?
Oh, yeah.
What do you remember? So you're in high school, and...
Well, I remember it was in every paper. Now, this is a memory. There was what they call a newsboy, and he would be on different streets yelling the headline of the paper. News, extra, extra.
Yeah, so if something big happened,
this newsboy,
the newsboy would be yelling up and down the streets.
Extra.
Right.
And Pearl Harbor bombed.
Now at that point, you guys had a radio?
Oh, yeah.
And so the only source of news was the newspaper. newspaper and the radio.
But for a kid, 14 years old, 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 14 years there were radio programs after 3 o'clock that told stories. The lady next door, she'd tell a story.
That was the name of the program. So
The lady.
the way kids today watch TV or videos.
You run home from school and turn on the set and just listen.
To the radio. Okay.
It was all, you see, we didn't know any different. It isn't a case of yesterday we had television and we had computers.
No, right.
It was delightful.
Right. Well, see, that's the beauty of you being 95 in 2018 with all the technology that you are aware of.
Unbelievable.
You know what it's like where it was very simple. And do you ever remember, this is just, I'm curious, do you ever remember like you wanted to listen to something on the radio and someone says, no, I want to listen to something on the radio? Was there ever fighting over what station there was? Okay.
Going to the beach. That was the thing.
So with your family.
Now, someplace there. See, that you have. I don't know when that Auburn. Well, it used to be a number, Auburn something. But my mother, my grandfather, at one point, when I was still in public school, bought a car and made sure that his daughters knew how to drive it.
That's great.
He couldn't drive it. And I remember my mother taking me, my grandmother, and Louie, my cousin. I don't know why Albert was never invited, because he was a pain in the neck, to the beach.
Which beach?
Rockaway.
On Long Island. Okay.
Jones Beach doesn't end until...
No, I know that. And before the car, would you guys take the train to the beach?
No, my grandmother would.
Okay. But you, so
I can't do anymore.
No, hold on. When you were finished with grade school, most of the kids went to public high school. How was it decided that you were
that
going...
That image is very, very vivid in my mind. And sitting in my kitchen, arguing with my mother and father. Why didn't I want to go where all the other kids are going? I want to go to Hunter in the city. You're going to meet terrible men on the train if you go to the city. I want to go to the school in the city. I want to go to Hunter College High School. I'm the only one in the school who passed that test. I want to go there. And I kept that up. And my father was so afraid me taking the train to 2nd Avenue, to where the high school was. He taught me how to hold keys so that they were weaponed. He taught me never to look anybody in the eye. He taught me to keep away with anybody who makes a nasty remark. Don't answer back. He taught me how to be a street person.
Right. Now, so you convinced them. So when you were in 8th grade or whatever, there was a test, and you were the only person in your grade.
Well, I'm the only one who took the test.
Oh, now your mother went to Hunter High School, but at the time she lived in Manhattan, so it wasn't far for her. Did you want to go to Hunter High School because she went to Hunter High School?
Probably.
Okay. And
that, and analyzing it now, the local high school was a great walking distance, but it was co-ed. And I really think I was afraid of boys. I'm not sure. I can't.
Okay. But
thinking back,
right.
I must have made that decision powerfully because my mother went there, and because I didn't want to get involved with boys and girls in school.
Now, for someone your age, deciding high school, you were probably one of the only kids that had a mother who graduated college. And your mother, she didn't want you to go to Hunter High just because of the commute.
Because of the commute, because taking the train,
Okay.
because of the horrible things
Because of the what?
horrible things my father said would happen.
All right. But you wound up, and that was very unusual. No one in your neighborhood was going to Hunter High School.
Well, nobody on my block was going. There was a private school. Elise went there, and one of the neighbors' kids went there.
Okay. All right, we'll take a break and then
Please.
we'll. Okay.